you ready for a deep dive into one of the most intense animated series out there? Welcome to Radioactive Ramblings, where we are currently breaking down the world of Invincible. Each week, we're going to unpack the jaw-dropping twists, the unforgettable characters, and that trademark brutal action. From Mark Grayson's journey to the darker side of heroism, to our continued love of Debbie, we've got every moment covered.
Mark, I don't want to hurt you.
I'm not the one who's gonna get hurt.
You said you don't do threats.
Yeah, well, people change.
Whether you're a longtime fan or just getting started, tune into our exclusive takes, fan theories, and so much more. Catch new episodes of Radioactive Ramblings every week, your go-to podcast for all things Invincible and more.
Hello and welcome to the Lorehounds. Elysia and David here with a quick reaction to this weekend's Oscars. And there's no intro, no outro. We're just getting to the core. David, what did you think of the ceremony overall? And we'll talk about the Hulu issue in a sec.
Well, I had a big Hulu issue, so that'll certainly, I have some things to say. It took me an hour to actually get a workaround to get into watching it, so we missed the whole thing. My family and I, we sat down, we were going to watch, have dinner Sunday night. Our daughter was really interested because the, Ariana Grande stuff and everything.
And Blackpink.
And yeah, Lisa and all of that. And an hour later, we finally got to watch the show. And from there on in, it was pretty good. And then this morning, I hopped back onto the YouTubes and watched a few of the, clips from the ceremony, specifically Conan's intro. I rewatched the In Memoriam section because I was in the other room when that was playing on the evening. And then I think I watched the Defying Gravity song. Did I watch anything else? Oh, and Kieran Culkin's Acceptance.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But overall, good. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good show, good representation. The humor was on point. It seemed to go along. I guess they ran long, but it didn't feel like they ran overly long. I certainly like the time shift so that they start earlier in LA, but then that just gives them more time to
party
not
after.
worry.
Or yeah.
What's that?
Oh, to not worry. Yes, I get what you're saying. I said party after.
Yeah, well, and then and that too, it gives them more time to party after. So, and I'm sure for a lot of logistics too, just having the daylight hours and that kind of stuff makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, I just felt like it felt, given all the topsy-turviness that's been going on, all the things that are happening in the world, not to mention the devastating fires and the impact that it's had on so many people in that region, the fact that they were able to pull it together and it was a good watch, it was a good hang. All right. Outside of the Hulu issues.
Outside the Hulu issues, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was glad it was an hour earlier because, it started at 1 a.m. for me this year. But yeah, I obviously I wasn't watching it on Hulu, but I heard lots of people were having those issues. I was chatting. We had a great chat going on the Lorehounds Discord, and I always chat with my mom throughout it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. Just watching. I think it was a good, fun ceremony, and I think that it paid just the right amount of tipping the hat to bigger issues in the world, but also with let's just let loose a little bit tonight and take this victory lap for these films.
Yeah, and that's something that I've been wrestling with too for us as podcasters and podcasting about popular culture and, things that are concurrently on TV. And obviously we deep dig back into different things time and again. But how do we approach that, and how do we balance that when there are some extremely serious things that are affecting us as a country, as individuals, as a world, as families, all kinds of stuff. And there's a space for entertainment and escapism. There's a space for conversations that are meaningful and interesting, and so that we're not bowling alone together, so to speak. I've been thinking a lot about that too. This whole question of loneliness and how TV is a part of that loneliness, but yet we have found community around television, which is our
Mm-hmm.
primary podcast thing. So anyway, that's a whole other
Mm-hmm.
conversation. But the idea that we could take a couple of hours out of our day and do something communally, have a monocultural event, be it a Super Bowl, a World Cup, a
Mm-hmm.
Oscar ceremony,
Yeah.
and come together, and entertainment is an important part of the human experience. It always has been, from painting on cave walls to making multi-million dollar movies. And so I too felt that it was balanced nicely. The humor wasn't crass. It was never crass. It was, some of the
Mm-hmm.
jokes played better than others. And there was a nod or a wink, not even a wink, but just there is a real world out here. We're dealing with it
Mm-hmm.
and we acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
but we're also taking a moment to do something a little bit differently, and hopefully something that's restorative,
Mm-hmm.
that brings us community. And then within community, we can recharge ourselves so that when we're dealing with all of these other difficult things in the world, we have a little grace, we have a little humor, we have a little bit of courage, because we know other people have courage as well. So
Yeah.
I thought that it was, like you said, finely balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate that the humor was never crass. And it was fun, and it was lighthearted, and they had a good time poking fun. And everybody who got fun poked at them was into it, and it was cool. And because the jokes were never harsh.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, credit to Conan O'Brien, who I knew he would weave that line well. That he has a level of taste where he's like, well, I'm not going to pull my punches, but he also understands how to. You can poke fun without going too far. Yeah, he knows where the line is.
Exactly. Is he your guy? Was he of your generation? Did you follow him generationally?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, from, before he joined The Tonight Show, especially, I was a fan of his late night show, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Mhm. Yeah, I'm definitely a Conan fan, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, he was just after me for when I would have watched him. So like I was aware of him, and I interacted with some of his stuff, but he wasn't my guy. Like Letterman was
Yeah,
my guy. Carson was certainly there as well in my life. So, but
yeah.
I've never really known him. I've never really
Okay.
dug into his humor or hung with him in that sort of parasocial way. And so I was a little bit like, okay, how is this the right guy? And I think he's the right guy. I
Yeah.
think they should keep him around for the next few.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and I think, I just want to call back to your point that you made about this being about monoculture events being important for bringing people together. And I think
Mm-hmm.
we do really need that, especially in a world that feels so, divided in so many ways.
Yeah.
Um, I think a highlight, an example of that was the documentary win for No Other Land. That was one. It's been winning awards all around the world, but it hasn't been able to get distribution in the
Okay.
US. And so a lot of people, including myself, I thought Porcelain War, which is about artists in Ukraine, would win. But it was kind of heartening, to see that they went ahead and voted for this, even though, there's a lot of controversy in the US, and B, just the acceptance speech that the Palestinian and the Israeli filmmakers gave together was considered by many a real high point, and just showing how when I know in that conflict, one of the most successful things in the past has been daycares where the children play together. Because when you are
Right.
coming together
Right.
and interacting with people, when you're sharing something, even if it's something silly like film awards, it just
Right.
you're talking to each other and you're realizing this
We're the
other person.
same.
Yeah, yeah, we're
Yeah.
all human. We all
At
hope
this
for the
base
same
level,
things,
we are.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. We love our children, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I do want to see. Apparently uh the ratings last night were slightly down over last year, but and this, we'll talk about the music in a bit, but it was up with younger groups. And you said you were watching with your daughter, and she was enjoying it as well.
Yeah, she was. There was a lot that went over her head. There were things that caught more, certain things that caught her eye more than others. It was funny because when we were on the Lorehounds Discord live chat and the Bond retrospective music thing came on,
Mm-hmm.
our daughter was interpreting she was like, oh, that's Lisa and that's this other person and they're all on this album together. Da, da, da. And we're looking over at our 9-year-old going, okay. And then I was posting that back onto the Discord chat and people were like, thank your daughter for us.
Yeah, I said that.
No. Yeah.
I said she educated me because I was talking to my mom at this point about, we were both like, oh, why isn't Adele singing her song? But
exactly.
Your daughter explained it because Ray, this UK artist, is on this album with Lisa,
which just dropped the other day, apparently. So
okay, all right. Well, that makes more sense.
Going back to the No Other Land thing really quickly, would you believe that the one acceptance speech that I was really, really interested in hearing, that's when, to be able to watch the episode, the Oscars, I had to use something that starts with a P or V and ends with an N.
With an N. Maybe there's a P in there, yeah.
Maybe there's a P in there, maybe not. I don't know. That's the mystery letter for you. It's you got to refine it. It's mysterious, but important. And that's when it decided to burp. And it was so frustrating because it also felt like that moment that if there is a big conspiracy government thing, that's when they were like, did they cut the transmission just as the one director was turning to the other director and saying, this is my brother. And, their life is constricted because of these things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, he doesn't have the same freedoms as that I do. And then, and it was like, wait, did they cut the transmission? What was going on? It's just something, in the internet's, had to be reset. And it was like, we were back on afterwards, but then we had missed most of the speech. So I was like, and I haven't gone back yet to go rewatch it.
Yeah, I did see that they had a clip for that on Oscars on the YouTube channel, but most of the Oscars YouTube clips are region locked to the US. So I might need to revisit with that mysterious V something N thing.
Need to refine the bits so that they can,
but yeah, so the Hulu problems, the reason why you were using that is what's interesting is this was especially bad timing for Hulu. Like first, there was the problem at the beginning where, you faced that first problem. A lot of people were complaining on like Letterboxd and Blue Sky and stuff about this, that they just couldn't even get on in the first place. And then those who did get on, at the end, they had it cut off right before the Best Actress and the final award.
Yeah.
So, including Doug in our chat. And they just said, it was just like, thank you for watching. It's over now. Like, what?
I heard something today that might have been sort of baked into some of the code that they had set up to allow it. They said, oh, this is a 3-hour performance. So we'll block this. And then when that timer ran out.
You've never heard of the Oscars before? It never ends on time. Come on.
Obviously. I mean, it's a live performance. Hulu has a live streaming system. Why didn't they give it to that team that understands live? I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know. But it was bad timing because the day before that, it was announced. So ABC's been the partner in the US for airing the Academy Awards since 1976.
Right.
And their contract is coming up and they had an exclusive negotiating period. And apparently they're not coming eye to eye on like licensing fees and stuff. So they had just announced before this whole snafu that they are looking around for other partners. And
Hulu was like, okay.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, whatever.
Well, I don't know. I feel like this was really bad for Hulu because who's going to rely on them right now to do a live event? They have to.
Well, that's a good point.
But then again, Netflix, Netflix is doing great with live events now. I watched SAG on Netflix that went off without a hitch. That was perfect. But Netflix, remember their first live event? I didn't watch it, but it was like the finale of a reality show or something. And
no, I don't know.
I remember there being like a big brouhaha that it all went wrong the first time they tried to do it. So
sure,
and now they've worked it out.
So I was, when we were saying, "Oh, okay, are we gonna watch some Oscars?" Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. How are we gonna watch it? Because we've had, trying to watch the Super Bowl or trying to watch
Mhm.
anything, the Olympics. At least this year, the Olympics were a lot better accessible. But it's always been this like nightmare kind of thing. Do you sign up for this service or not? Are you supposed to blah blah blah? So
Yeah.
they was like, "Oh, watch it on Hulu," and we were like, "Okay, we have Hulu. Great, no
Yeah.
problem. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to stress about it. I'm not going to
Mhm.
pre-check anything." We have a Roku device, an external device to the TV. So I flicked on the Roku.
Oh, I
It said,
wonder if
"Oh,
that's what the portion of people who are affected. I wonder if it was because of that.
well." So Roku's pushing an ad saying,
Mhm.
"Watch live on the Roku
Right.
channel." So I was like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, why
Yeah,
not?" So
yeah.
I clicked that. It takes me to ABC News, and they're
Mhm.
airing the show 2020, which is their news magazine show.
Mhm.
I'm like, "It's 7:00. Yeah, Google, like, when does the Oscar
Mhm.
start? 7:00. Okay. So that's a bust, right?
Mhm.
So what's up with that? So I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, whatever. That's weird. I'll just go to Disney, go to my Hulu tile on Disney, go to Disney, no Oscars. There's an Oscars collection.
Mm.
There is, of like, oh, these are the movies that we have that are best, or that are nominated. Go to Hulu, nothing on the tile that says anything about Oscars." So I'm like, okay, that's weird. So, well, let me bounce out. Let me go to the Hulu standalone app. Oh, you got to use your My Disney password, right? Because it's all unified now. Okay, here's my
Mhm.
password. Here's my user login. Here's my password. Sorry, there's an error. Just error. Like nothing. Like, it's not even like it's expired or you put in the wrong thing. It was just like, we can't do that. And then so I spent an hour chasing my tail
Mm.
till I finally went across the pond to,
Yeah.
to find a source.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some streaming glitches, so I ended up watching it in a couple different countries. Um
My family's like looking at me going, "Are we watching this thing or not?" And I'm like, and people on the Discord are like, "Try this, try that." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Thank you." And I'm like in this hell of passwords and accounts and double checking
Mhm.
things. Oh, it was horrible. It was the absolute worst. And I really had thought, oh, it's on Hulu. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right. You would have had me if it had worked, right? I would have been
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's awesome. Like, I'm so glad it worked." But no, now I'm
Well,
pissed.
they have a few more years to work it out because even if they do switch, it won't be till 2028. That's when the contract is
All
officially
right.
up. But I do hope. I mean, it would be nice if we could just all be watching the same broadcast because there was another
Exactly.
point where I was watching in Brazil and
Hmm.
Conan did this faux commercial for the movie theaters. I ended up
Yeah, it was
watching the
great.
clip online later,
Right.
but at the time, the Brazilian hosts, I think they didn't realize it wasn't an actual commercial, so they just like were like, "Oops, a days," and just talked right over it, and then finally
Right.
it's back. It's just stuff like that where it just seems like we're cutting into this monocultural experience a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but
Well,
yeah,
I apologize to the listeners. I guess that was a little overindulgent walking you through my agony of Hulu experience. I apologize if
I'm
that was
sure
a
a
little
lot
bit
relate.
dry. I just needed, I appreciate you allowing me to vent and have a little
Yes.
catharsis. So
This
thank
is a
you.
safe space for for Hulu fucked up
Right.
sentiment.
So let's talk
Um,
more about the actual Oscars.
but yeah, so what you missed was you watched some of it. You said already the opening. We opened with this Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande medley of
Oh, is that very,
three.
very first? Because I watched it
Mhm.
all out of order.
Yeah, that
Okay.
was very, very first. So it was we had Somewhere Over the Rainbow. We had Home from The Wiz, and then the iconic, obviously, Defying Gravity from Wicked.
Right.
And then Conan O'Brien was crawling out of a back, a substance
I
reference.
saw that.
Which my mom didn't watch The Substance. I told her,
Right.
like, don't watch The Substance. It's not for you. It's fine. But she was like, ew, what the hell? What is that?
I can imagine if people didn't understand what they were watching, that would have been a bit of a shocker. Like to start
Yeah.
the Oscars with that was pretty bold. It was
um,
funny.
yeah,
It
it was
was
funny. It
funny,
was
but
funny. It
bold.
was on point. It was on point for.
Can I ask you a quick question about
Mhm,
Cynthia Erivo?
mhm.
I don't know her from before this movie,
Oh,
but damn, that woman the way she held the crowd, the way she held the music and the space,
Mm-hmm.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
She's an I'm without
powerhouse.
words.
Yeah.
Just an incredible performer. And
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? That was great. It was absolutely great.
This was her third Oscar nominee. The last two were for the movie Harriet for acting and song.
Okay.
And if she had won, then she would have gotten her EGOT.
Wow. So she's very close to an EGOT. Okay, very cool.
And obviously, she has another chance this coming year because there's going to be another Wicked movie.
Okay. I didn't realize. Yeah, I don't know her from at all from before. So I'm like, okay, let's bring her.
Yeah.
Bring me some more, please.
Well, I think it's funny that because normally the opening is a tribute to all the movies, and this one was like just Wicked.
Right.
And nobody was complaining because they're like, that's fine if these two just want to sing the rest of the ceremony. We're in.
It's all good.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Conan, you already alluded to. He did a great job as a host. I think one example of how he really threaded the line well is, so Carla Sofia Gascon, she's Best Actress nominee for the controversial Emilia Perez, and she made it even more controversial. So he had to address that, but he did it in just like the most tasteful way, where he's like, oh, saying more expletives than Carla Sofia Gascon's publicist, and the camera flashes to her and he's like, if you want to tweet about me after this, my name is Jimmy Kimmel. I have to say, to her credit, she seems to be learning a little bit. She responded on Instagram the next day, thank you to the Oscars, blah blah blah, and thank you to the host Jimmy Kimmel, who looks more and more like Conan O'Brien every day.
Nice. Good.
So she's learning. She's learning.
Exactly.
It doesn't undo all the things that she said, but she's learning.
Right.
I also loved when Latvia won for Flow. This is the first time Latvia has been nominated. So 2 nominations for Flow, won one of them. And Conan turns to the camera and says, "Your move, Estonia."
Very cute.
Yeah. Were you surprised that Nick Offerman was the announcer?
I think it was, obviously because we came in late. And then what was the bit where he was toying with somebody on stage who was like going to present? I forget who it was. And then that's when I realized that I recognized the voice, and then actually he was part of the skit. And then my wife and I were like, oh, and it's Nick. Okay, I get it. And he's got a great voice for it. He sounds like the voice that we want for the Oscars. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I didn't realize for a while until
so
someone said something.
He had that big announcer voice that sort of disassociated his personality from his voice. So
yeah. And you said that you went back and watched the Kieran Culkin speech, which everyone loves Kieran Culkin's speeches. But you missed the first speech was Best Actor winner, and so it was Adrian Brody. And it was the longest acceptance speech in Oscar history. It was, I think, 5 minutes and 40 seconds long.
That's the one where he stops the music. He tells them to stop the music, and he does the whole, I saw that, and I was cringing. I had 2 big cringe moments, and that was the second one.
That was okay. So there was he starts with the gum toss, and then he's like, oh, I've been here before and stuff.
Yeah. And then he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Really, in the end, there was nothing profound about what he said. It was just sort of him sort of spouting off. And he's like, I'll be short. I'll be short. I'll be short. I'll be short. Mm-hmm. It's like when characters on a TV show, I don't have time to explain to you. So, I'm going to explain to you 3 times that I don't have time to explain to you this critical plot point in our storyline. I'm like, bro, like, seriously, if you're going to say what you're going to say it.
Yeah. Well, we were also bitching in the chat because there was, we did the ESPN pool to do our bets. And the last tiebreaker question was, how long do you think the first speech will be? And we all were like, I don't know, a couple minutes. I think I said 91 seconds, which is actually quite optimistic if I think about it. But yeah, he ruined all of our tiebreaker questions. So.
Funny.
Was the other cringe moment the El Mal acceptance song?
Yeah. And it was kind of fine. It was like, okay, you're an artist, you're a little bit self-absorbed. That's all cool. And then the when she started to sing, I was like, yeah, I think you said this on the Discord.
Mhm.
She didn't know how to read the room, and
Mhm.
or she didn't bother to, or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's about sums it up.
Apparently, Jacques Audiard, the director, was on stage with them because he was also credited as a songwriter in that song. And he apparently, people heard him say under his breath, like, "Wrap it up."
Yikes!
And people were like, "How could she not let him talk?" But yeah, um, the sad part about this is that this means that Diane Warren has lost for the 16th time. So we're all watching. There's actually a documentary that's coming out in theaters soon called Diane Warren Relentless. And so we're all watching that in preparation for next year. So it would be great if she finally got her Oscar for a movie about herself.
Right. Yeah. There you go. That would be pretty funny.
But how exciting was it to see Mick Jagger come on stage?
It wasn't.
No? Oh, my mom and I were excited.
Sure. Yeah. I thought it was cool. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
Mick, that was nice.
He was very cool.
Yeah. Of course, I think maybe my Mick surprise was a little bit less just because I had seen him featured in one of the Saturday Night Live documentary pieces that they had for SNL 50. And so they had him on camera a bunch conversing, and then they played an extended part of one of his skits that he had. So I was kind of like, I don't know, I guess I was pre-Micked, and then I was like, oh, it's Mick again. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Bob Dylan
cool,
was less game, because I bet they would have had Timothy Chalamet sing Bob Dylan songs if Bob Dylan had let them.
Right. I think that would have been a little weird, but yeah, it was cool to see Mick.
But your daughter liked at least the Bond tribute.
Well, she doesn't know James Bond from
No,
A
but
Hole in the
the
Ground.
singers.
Yeah,
and that's kind of why they did it, I think.
Yeah,
I mean, so for that part,
right? So she liked Lisa, and is it Ray? And then who is the other person?
Doja Cat.
Doja Cat, that's right. I thought I was interested with Doja Cat because musically, there was something weird about that song, but I don't know. Was it Doja Cat's outfit? My daughter really keyed on one of the outfits. Somebody who had a really sparkly outfit. I don't remember who it was now, but anyway,
Halle Berry, maybe.
Yeah, I think it might have been. But yeah, Doja Cat. I don't really know her music that much, and I was sort of impressed by her performance because it was a very stately performance, and I think of her as a meme artist and not as a classically presented entertainer in that way. So,
I mean, these are obviously. I know Lisa from Blackpink from the White Lotus. That's basically
right. Exactly.
This is the first time I think I might have heard all these people sing, but I've heard of Blackpink and I've heard of Doja Cat, but they weren't there for me. They were there for your daughter.
Exactly. And Lisa seems to be everywhere right now, so she's doing a lot. Obviously Blackpink, but Lisa herself and Blackpink and specifically Lisa have eclipsed Taylor Swift in my in my daughter's estimation. So,
all right, big shoes to fill.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people were baffled by the whole Bond tribute because there's no Bond movie this year or next. Right. But so the Broccoli family, who are the ones being honored there, they're the ones who have held control creatively of the Bond movie franchise. And they just recently sold the rights to Amazon. And that's been quite controversial. So I think there was something of like a hidden entertainment business political statement in this.
Which I thought was interesting because to get three very hot singers, right, in terms of the corner of the market that those singers dominate in, to get stage time at the Oscars, to not have a tie-in other than the fact that licensing is transferring to Amazon, I thought, well, that's a hell of a coup because the Oscars are planning, like they're already planning Oscars, for the future, right? The next year's Oscars planning started today, I would assume, because that's a huge
to
technical.
The basics, but of course they don't even know what movies are going to be involved until 2 months before, maybe.
So so they have to have the machinery in place to be able
Mhm.
to execute on all that kind of stuff. And so to pull a number like that, to get the songs, to get the cueing, the state, all that stuff, that's a pretty big deal. To get anything on
Mhm.
stage at the Oscars, that's a big deal.
Mhm.
So like, what was that all about? I don't really know.
Mhm.
And is it coincidental that or did they intentionally release the news about the licensing change
To time it.
ahead of the Oscars
Hmm.
intentionally? Because they
Yeah.
had this. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't understand how the pieces
I
fit
mean, I
together.
think you'd be surprised how much has to be pulled together last minute just because like
It's
they can't.
incredible.
Yeah, because they can't really until they get the nominations. They don't really
Right.
know exactly who they're asking for what, and yeah.
And to pair the presenters
Mhm.
appropriately and
Mhm.
oh man, to prepare all the graphics packages, it's a huge deal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and they managed to they had that Quincy Jones tribute, so we had Queen Latifah,
Right.
we got some Wiz nods.
Mhm.
Yeah, the year of Wizard of Oz, we were calling it on the Discord. But also they pulled together very last minute because he had only died like a day or so before that Gene Hackman tribute.
Right. Yep. For my for our 11Z's movie podcast, I will be doing a Gene Hackman Film Festival. I think I'm January, February, March, April. What am I? March, April. Am I April or May? I just put the spreadsheet together. I don't even remember. Anyway, we're going to do a Gene Hackman Film Festival. So, subscribers, look forward to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was surprised. Speaking of our last film festival, I was really surprised that they had like a little extra time for Lynch in the regular in memoriam.
Yes.
But yeah, I was really surprised that he didn't get his own tribute because I would say David Lynch is one of the most influential filmmakers ever, and he was
Agreed.
nominated, I think, like 4 times.
Right.
So, although Isabella Rossellini wore a blue velvet dress, like in the movie Blue Velvet, so
Right.
she's a
Yeah.
classy lady.
I watched the In Memoriam, and it was strange because some people got less time than more time and more time. And there were certain actors who are like, wow, that person was huge. And they got like nothing on screen. And then they paused and lingered with others, which was all fine. So I didn't really understand the In Memoriam this year. It felt a little, it didn't seem right to me in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Well, I was most upset that Michelle Trachtenberg, who she just died at the age of 37, something about a liver transplant. So I found that really personally sad because that's an actress who I grew up, seeing as my peer,
Right.
watching her from a young age, and she wasn't in there at all, which I
Huh.
was surprised by. I mean, granted, she's not nominated for an Oscar, but she was still a film actress.
Right. Yeah. And this covers a lot of people. So,
Right.
yeah.
And I personally I love Mozart's Requiem, which is I understand quite dark, and so I understand that there's been complaints about the tone of the music that it should have been something more bittersweet rather than just. But I also just feel like dark is the moment, It's
Mm-hmm.
it's dark out there, and I need some sounds that recognize the pain in me. Yeah, sorry, that's a Verve lyric that's always in my head.
Right. Yeah, and I'm looking. Variety even has an article about the people who are not included, like
Hmm.
Shannon Doherty and Tony
Oh
Todd.
yeah,
And yeah, so yeah, it's strange. It's a head scratcher. I don't know why. I
yeah,
don't know what happened.
yeah. It does feel. Yeah, that did feel off.
But we lost a lot of big people this year too. So it
Yeah,
was like I
it
didn't
was a
realize
heavy
it.
year for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. On the lighter side, what did you think of the best costume presentation?
I think that is when we just joined, and so I
Okay.
kind of missed some of that. But I went back and caught the beginning of it with Yang and Lithgow's little
Uh-huh.
funny thing, and that was cute. I thought that was
Yeah.
quite funny, and I loved the through line of Lithgow's scowling face. So that was
Yeah.
a good gag for the whole thing. I was just talking about this with John last night when we were recording Empire Strikes Back for the Star Wars Film Festival. Speaking of film festivals. And in that movie, there's a couple of through lines that they have, like with the Millennium Falcon's jump drive not working, or Vader as he's always like killing his top commanding officers.
Hmm.
And those two things work really well to create some bones for the movie. So having a through line, and not even a gag, but just something that people could refer to or grab onto and make a little joke of all the way through, I think really helps narratively with some structure. So I thought that was a really good gag to bring into play.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think Bowen Yang and John Lithgow were
Cute. They were
secret.
funny.
Yeah, they were second MVPs of the night.
Yeah.
It was a good win. I think Wicked was the deserving win for this. See our tech episode for why, our production design and tech episode for why. But yeah, it was also Paul Tazewell. He became the first Black man to win costume. So that was a landmark.
I think we dropped into the broadcast right about that point. So
okay. We also had obviously I mentioned the landmark for Latvia's first Oscar nomination and thus win. So in Riga, in the capital of Latvia, they built a statue of the black cat from Flow.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. And I heard some commentary today too that this movie had the least number of people on the crew, and that it was done with free software that anybody could download.
I used to work there. Yeah.
Oh wow, amazing. So like I was like, oh, that's really cool, So yeah, and I love the fact that something like, again with Anora, right? There's this an outsider has to be an outsider, but like when an outsider crawls in through the window or sort of slips in through a unexpected zone somehow, like, and you welcome them in, it's like, it's great to see that outsiders are still getting onto the inside,
right,
with this kind of stuff. So, and I don't know anything about the Flow production team, but the fact that a small team could use some free software, some available software like that to make a Oscar-winning hit, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely check out the animation and international episodes for more information about how Flow was made. But it was very, very impressive, and I love to see it win. I kept calling my cat Shadow a little Oscar winner all day yesterday. I was so glad that I'm Still Here won in international. I'm sure that
great.
I know Brazil wanted actress as well. But I hope they were celebrating that win in international.
For sure.
On the Dutch side, the Dutch were up for two shorts. One was expected to win, the animated short Wander to Wonder, and that one actually lost. Although the one that won was my second favorite in that category, In the Shadow of the Cypress, which was an Iranian film, which is. It's just nice to see Iranian film had a moment at the Oscars despite the censorship problems that they're facing there.
Good.
But everyone told me I'm Not a Robot was not going to win live action shorts, and it did. So the Dutch did get an Oscar.
Nice.
But that was my favorite live action short, and you should be able to find it on YouTube. I'm Not a Robot. It was from The New Yorker. But of course, the big winner was Anora with 5 Oscars. Were you surprised? Were you happy?
I was, I guess, mildly surprised. I think it's a big deal. I heard some other commentary that remind me of the director's name. It's not in the top
Sean
line.
Baker.
Yeah, Sean Baker. Thank you. Has 4 Oscars to his name, and I think that's more than Lucas has, or something like that.
Well, so he took home 4
editing.
He took home 4 Oscars in one night. Yeah, editing, directing, writing, and film.
Right.
And so that is a record. It ties for the record. Walt Disney got 4 Oscars in one night.
That's right. Yeah, right.
But Walt Disney got it for 4 different films. And Sean Baker is the only person to ever get 4 Oscars for a single film.
Okay.
So that's
and is that the and then who? So who? Yeah, I'm just curious as to who individually has the most Oscars
overall. Definitely people have more than 4.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was a big deal for it in one night. But I mean, it was a big deal. The budget for Anora was $6 million, and it earned $41 million globally, which makes it the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever.
Okay.
But it drove. Well, first of all, it was the second winner of the Palme d'Or at the Oscars after Parasite a few years ago, and Neon is the studio behind it. The distribution company is now a force to be reckoned with, because Neon was also behind Parasite, but also they've had the Palme d'Or winning film at Cannes for the last 5 years. And these are previous Oscar nominees like Triangle of Sadness, and well, Tizian wasn't nominated for an Oscar. But anyway, Neon is definitely a studio, a distribution house to watch. They're
Okay.
making a big name at the Oscars. And it drove to a somewhat surprising win of Mikey Madison over Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Because Demi Moore got the SAG, but Mikey Madison got a lot of awards. So
Right. It didn't Demi Moore sort of run the table on all of the other award ceremony?
they split them, but
Okay.
she got the SAG win, so people
That's a
thought
big
that
one.
meant
Right. Yeah. That's a nod to the Oscars. So yeah.
right, because they're the biggest voting body at the Oscars, the actors. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, they were really kind of spread the wealth with the winners overall this year, which I thought was a good thing.
It did. There was no, other than Honora, which then it didn't even, it
Right.
didn't over dominate, right? It
Right.
won, it dominated, but not in a crazy way.
And the Brutalist was another one that was originally expected to be a Best Picture winner. It got 3. So, Conclave, which was considered to be a front runner for Best Picture, ended up only walking away with 1. It should have gotten actor.
Yeah, I really, I think Fiennes' his performance was pretty sublime in that. I really liked it. I personally enjoyed it more than The Brutalist, but that's just on a personal taste level. So
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then Amelia Perez got their actress in song. Oh, sorry, supporting actress. It's category fraud.
Well, I have to say for Zoe Saldana, she's a hardworking actor.
She's a hardworking actor,
and she's been in a lot for both TV and film. I'm not sure, is she on stage at all? I wouldn't be surprised if she is.
Yeah, but I mean,
so I was happy for her because
Yeah.
I respect the hell out of her and
Sure.
the stuff that she puts out, and I thought she did a good job in the movie. She was compelling.
Sure, but my joke was, my snide remark was in the direction that no one who was actually a supporting actor walked home with a statue. It was given to, because Kieran Culkin was also the second lead of his movie.
He's the second lead. I've only watched half of A Real Pain. My wife and I started watching it the other night, and we're going to come back to it. And I think you and me and John wanted to talk about it once we.
That was one of my favorite films of the year. So I definitely want to talk about it. Wicked got 2 production design awards. Dune got 2 technical awards. That was expected. Substance got 1 technical award. And then, there were 4 categories. It's interesting, though. There were only 4 categories in which all 5 nominees were only nominated in that category. And that was the 3 shorts categories and documentary feature. And every other category, the winner was nominated for more than 1 award.
Okay.
So basically, for people who are predicting in the future, whenever you see a film like Flow nominated for more than 1 award, that's more likely to win its category, even if it's up against the favorite was Wild Robot. And also, obviously, Inside Out 2 was the highest grossing film of the year. But also, I think
it's kind of a strength, right? If you're showing up in other places, it means you're registering on people's radars.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think there was also, with everything that's been going on with the big studios and the strikes and everything, I think it was a year where people really wanted to reward independent cinema. And I think Anora benefited from that. Flow benefited from that. Definitely. It was quite a few beneficiaries of that.
Right. Yeah. And it's a weird year, and there's a lot that's changing in the marketplace as well, with streamers and the streamers subsuming traditional studios, and what does that mean from small screen to big screen. I did really appreciate all of the effort to remind people that going out to theaters is a great cultural event. It's a great cure for loneliness. It's a great cure for being with your neighbors, because I think that's probably a lot of what we're dealing with culturally is that we're not around other people. We're isolating ourselves. And so tolerance and understanding and all of those kinds of things. So anyway, I really appreciated their push on go out to the theaters. And I wish I could have seen more of these in theaters. And it's just hard, modern life and kids, families, the time you have to devote to get someplace to go see it. you have different constraints in your life, but even you, I think, were struggling to
Mm-hmm.
get to the theaters and, in balancing life.
Yeah, just trying to keep up with endless work.
Right.
But,
got
but
podcasts to edit, man.
yeah.
got content to put.
Well, yeah, this is the endless job search. But it was a lot of them were not even released in theaters until after
Right.
nominations, or
Yeah.
even I'm Still Here wasn't released in theaters until after the Oscars. Like, come
Mhm.
on.
Right.
What are we doing?
Frustrating.
Yeah. So I would love to see more films from earlier in the year nominated. So everyone go see Mickey 17. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm trusting it's going to be good, and let's all talk it up all year long.
Is that high on our list? I think it's on our show tracker, or for the year, as Mickey 17 is something I remember seeing an entry for. So yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah, it definitely should be. It's from Bong Joon-ho, who's the South Korean filmmaker.
Oh, great.
He was the one who made Parasite, so he's definitely on the Oscar radar now. He also made
Okay.
like Snowpiercer and The Host and Okja. He's one of my favorite directors personally. So
all right, yeah, no, that's a must see. That is absolutely a must see.
Yeah, it's sci-fi. It's Robert Pattinson as he's Mickey, but then he has a job where he gets killed and reprinted over and over again, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sounds
it's a
perfect.
comedy. Yeah.
Sounds perfect.
But yeah, so that brings us to the 2026 Oscars death race starts now. So I will put a link in the to my letterbox list in the show notes. That it's a list of films to keep an eye on. It's a very long list, so it'll look overwhelming. I am getting it in some sort of release order slowly as I have time. But of course, there's like a heavy emphasis on things that I personally like horror and science fiction. But hey, horror and science fiction did pretty well this year. So
yeah, it did, and that we actually got a horror film as a nominee is pretty wild.
yeah, 2. Yeah, well, as a best picture, yeah, and
Yeah.
2 that were overall. Any final thoughts that you had about the ceremony, the season?
I outside of that frustration, I enjoyed the ceremony and it was good. I thought that we're I think we're creating a nice tradition within the Lorehounds community with this, and I think it's just great the amount of work that you do and the voices that you bring in from around the globe, because it's very easy for this podcast to be very US centric, and we have more listeners around the world, and I think that it's a great service that you do for the community, that you're able to pull in different people with different experiences and backgrounds, both directly in, especially around directly related to film. So I really love to see that there's a certain part of our community that are into films and are into the Oscars, and then that is starting to generate momentum. I was surprised by the ESPN poll thing that you guys pulled together, because I wasn't monitoring that channel. And I was like, oh, that's great. We should totally do that next year and make sure that that's part of our activities and our events. So I'm just really looking forward to, talking with our community and seeing what ideas that you come up with, and seeing how we can year on year have more fun with this and improve the experience for all of us. And I'm interested in, one thing that I'm kind of interested in is, okay, next year will be my 3rd year doing this Oscars stuff. And so starting to look at some of the historical trends, or what was it, what was our betting for last year for this one, or what have you, and doing some comparisons. So I guess that's just a broad general of reaction to being enthusiastic for next year, because we've been building something for these last 2 years, and I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think you had a great idea that I should check in December when the shortlists are dropped, and we can have like a little conversation about, okay, these are the films that people should be paying attention to because these are most likely to dominate nominations, things like that.
Okay. That's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, and to get sort of, because it's this year particularly was awkward because of the delays and the changes and that kind of stuff. But to start thinking at the beginning of the year about what, catching up on some of the easier ones to get to, so that the end of the year is not such a crunch.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and I was pleasantly surprised how many of them that we had already covered, at least 5 of them before the Oscar nominations were even announced. So
Yeah, that's true. That's right.
Yeah.
So-
So do you have any other films that you're going to watch from this year's Oscars now?
Yeah, still up on my watch board. I have A Complete Unknown. I got to finish I'm Still Here, and I got to finish Wicked. Are definitely going to get there. I'm going to throw Flow onto our family watch list.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm curious to see if we're able to get what was the documentary that won the I'm forgetting the title.
Oh yeah, No Other Land.
No Other Land. Yeah, I think that would be an important one to watch as well.
Yeah. And I did, by the way, in the documentary episode, because that documentary really throws you in the middle of the conflict, and it does a good job of making it, visceral in that way. But also, I would suggest people might want to look up. John Oliver did a 30-minute bit of, not a bit, like a report about the entire conflict there 6 months ago. So if you just go on YouTube and look up John Oliver West Bank, then you that gives all the context that you need for what the film's actually throwing you in the middle of.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
Yeah, and a Real Pain, and yeah.
Oh yeah, Real Pain as well. Yeah, we're gonna finish watching that.
And Sing Sing I recommended to you, and Better Man.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. I think I don't know. I have many lists around here somewhere. Because there's like the things that I'm trying to keep track of, and then there's the things that I want to watch with with my wife. And it's funny because the day that we recorded, I think the bookend, and you had recommended A Real Pain that night. My wife was like, "Oh yeah, let's watch A Real Pain." And I was like, "Perfect,
okay,
let's do it. Great, let's go."
It was funny because also John and Maya watched it that
same
night
too.
Yes,
exactly, same night. It was perfect.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's breaking through into the cultural zeitgeist. So I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah,
definitely excited for more from Jesse Eisenberg.
For sure. Yeah, I think it was so far from what I've seen, it's a real strong story, a clear vision, and I could see his career, his filmmaking career, really going forward from here.
Yeah. All right, balls in your court, Jesse Eisenberg. Hope you're writing next year's Best Picture winner. And everybody go see Mickey 17 and whatever else in the theaters. I'm hearing good things about The Monkey. I want to go see that this weekend, I hope too.
Okay. Go to cinemas if you can. Not to shame anybody if you can't, but the idea of being able to go. I'm actually looking forward to the point where our daughter's able to, she's starting to make food, make her own lunch. She was making some ramen earlier today and doing more and more things on her own and being home alone by her, and for us to be able to go out. So I'm really looking for, we're on the cusp of that time period in our life. So I'm really looking forward to, I can go to the movies. I can block a couple, 2-3 hours out of my day and not feel guilty or worried.
Right.
So,
Right. And share something with her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. Okay. That's a good note to end on. Go to the cinemas and take your families if you can, or friends or yourself. I like going by myself.
Fair enough.
All right. Thank you, David. And looking forward to talking more movies with you this year.
Bravo, Elysia. Really great job on this whole season. I know you pulled it together because we were waiting for the list and then you had to pull your guests and stuff like that. So you really did an excellent job. And I just, I think on behalf of the community, I know there's a lot of community members who really appreciate the work that you put into this. So on behalf of all of them, thank you for bringing this to our community.
Well, thank you. And hopefully we can spread out the episodes a bit more next year.
Well, every year we're going to just keep,
we're going to keep iterating. And hopefully no fires, obviously, for more reasons than that. Yeah.
God, it sounds like the Carolinas and Georgia right now are being affected, which is terrible as well. Just after their...
My thoughts are with those in the fire zone, and may this not be another year of such intensely on-point documentary fodder.
Yeah. Okay, let's think of those people. Be courageous in the world. Think of people complexly. Thank you, Elysia, for all your work.
Thank you. Bye, all. Thank you all for listening.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.
Hey everyone, David here. Severance is back. The Lorehounds are partnering with Properly Howard to bring you in-depth weekly coverage of Season 2. Join me, John, Anthony, and Steve as we unpack every twist, theory, and revelation. We've created a dedicated feed just for our Severance coverage. Simply search for Severance Lorehounds in your podcast app, or find the direct link in our link tree. Our weekly episodes dig deep into the show's mysteries, themes, and bigger questions about identity and consciousness that makes Severance so compelling. Season Pass and regular community subscribers get ad-free access to our weekly episodes, plus exclusive content like our Supply Closet bonus series, featuring fascinating conversations with experts like the team from Nevermind the Music. We've explored the neuroscience of memory and personality, decoded the hidden meanings in the show's musical themes, and there's much more to come. You'll also get Steve and Anthony's complete Season 1 rewatch series. We believe in total transparency with our listeners, and unlike mammalians nurturable, we're happy to share all of our secrets. Find the link for the Severance feed in the show notes below, or search Severance Lorehounds wherever you get your podcasts. Come theorize with us about what's really happening at Lumen.
And remember, the episode you think you're about